Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Eve Echoes. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Eve Echoes developer roadmap on Trello. Now, if you do have Trello and you want to keep an eye on this yourself, I have provided a link in the description down below, but otherwise, I'm kind of intending this video to be a way of gathering together all the information about what's coming in the next couple of months, because there have been some changes to the Trello here. We've got a lot of information through the weekly developer Q&A series and things like that aren't necessarily properly mentioned here, so I just want to go over this because we've had those updates, and it's just been a while since we properly had a look at this roadmap. Now, if you are interested in finding out more info from the devs as well, it's worth just spending a brief moment just to say, you know, you can go to the dev Q&A link, which I'll provide in the description down below as well, and there's a Google form there that you can fill in, ask some questions. 4 of those are answered every week as part of the Developer Weekly Q&A series, and anyone that's chosen to be answered does win a month of Omega. Anyway, that all said and done, I've downloaded Trello. Let's jump into the Eve Echoes dev roadmap and have a look at what's changed. Now, first of all, we have the ongoing bugs and suggestions, and there's not actually all that much in there. We then have February, March, April, May, June, all of which, of course, have now gone. But just to have a brief look at this, February was the Valentine's Day event and the insurance system. March was the insurance version 2. April gave us compressed ore, gave us the hunt, which was our proto battle pass. It gave us an update to the ship tree, and it gave us corporation auditing, which was pretty sweet. In May, we had the massive balance update, balance changes to encounters, to the delivery system. We had freighters added, and all of those new tier 10 ships, which now we're finally flying at last. June 2021, scanning and exploration, the industry decoder, which we now know is the resonance scanner. The scanning and exploration rig upgrade, this we still haven't seen much information on. We all thought this would be where we'd get the Tech 4 rigs, but I'm assuming this is now the fact that they redid the different rigs used for scanning, the gravitational field one and the emission scope, that kind of thing. So I think that's what that was referring to. The update to Dead Space was the addition of Nihilus and changing how those spawned. Nihilus space was then added, including the compressed asteroids belts. Holographic reconstruction, we now know, is what they were referring to nanocores as before they launched, so we got that one. And Nihilus space, Dead Space modules, obviously this is the ability to upgrade your C-types to B-types to A-types to X-types. Now, what about what's coming in the future? Well, we've got 2 months worth listed here, August and October. Now, August is the anniversary celebration. Eve Echoes launched on, I think it was the 5th of August 2020, which was a big day for me. It's the 5th or the 7th, I don't remember which one it was, but obviously it's August. August is the year anniversary. Eve Echoes turns a year old. What a year it's been. So there's going to be a big celebration of that. And we know from previous conversations that that celebration is going to be both in-game and on social media. So do make sure that you're following things like the Eve Echoes Twitter account if you're on Twitter, and if you're on Facebook, follow the Eve Echoes Facebook account as well, the Facebook page. Get in on that, make sure you're keeping an eye on what's going on, because there should be a load of really cool stuff coming there. Then we have Arena Mode. Now, Arena Mode is something that I am super hype about. As I mentioned in a previous video, I've actually been lucky enough to play this and try it, and it is exceptional. I'm not allowed to say anything more than that, other than, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to be screaming from the rooftops and showcasing this to you guys. I'm really impressed with it. I'm looking forward to it launching. All we know about it that is public information is that it is a 10v10 mode, and you will not lose ships through flying it. That's all I can say. We then have the complete beginner experience. Now, obviously, you know this channel exists because Eve Echoes has an incredibly tough learning curve to it. This is not an easy game to pick up. You know, you've done it yourself. You've done those first couple of days where you're like, oh my goodness, what on earth is actually going on here? How does this work? How does that work? And a lot of things that people took for granted early on turned out to be false, like how capacitor works, and a lot of other things, you know, here and there as well that were just different enough from Eve Online to be confusing, and just ultimately I think if you hadn't played EVE Online, this was a very difficult game to get into. It's why I started making Catskull Academy videos on this channel, to try and help out as many people as I could, and I will continue to be doing that. Now, the complete beginner experience here is designed to move a lot of this kind of stuff in-game. We saw that when the game launched, you basically only had the tutorials, the basic tutorials and the advanced tutorials, which were just go out and do this and you earn so many points that will help you towards new things. Then they started adding little encounters and missions to these as well. Like there's one where they teach you how to use an afterburner, one where they teach you how to use a stasis webifier, that kind of thing. That was a new addition that was not in the game at launch, and essentially that's what we're looking to take a step further from there. NetEase are basically saying, look, we want new players coming into this game to have a complete experience that teaches them everything they're going to need to know to get off the ground and actually flying around New Eden properly, and I'm all for this. Anything that helps new players to actually stick around in the game is going to be a good thing, because ultimately there's a lot of people I know in real life who have tried to play Eve Echoes, sort of jumped in on day 1 and day 2, maybe played for a week or so, and just like, I don't get this. I do not understand what I'm doing and what I'm supposed to be doing, and then they drop out. And those are potential players that ultimately could be part of our community, making this game bigger and better and stronger, but they're not sticking around because they're not able to get to grips with the full game and its system. So anything that helps them stick around longer is a good thing in my book. Next up, adding the LP Arena and secret stores. Now, LP is loyalty points in EVE Online, and I have no reason to believe that it'll be different here in EVE Echoes. This looks like it's tied in with the arena, so you'll be fighting in the arena, and you'll earn loyalty points which you can use to buy stuff. Now, we know for a fact that in the Arena update in August, we should be getting both the Mordu's Legion ships, so the Gamma, the Orca, and the Barghest, and we should be getting the Sisters of Eve ships as well, the Astero, the Stratios, and the Nestor. Those are two of the pirate, in inverted commas, factions that are still yet to be added to the game. You can see the ships currently in the game files, we just have no way to actually build or fly them if, unlike me, you don't have access to Fulmination. Now, again, if you've watched those videos on how the Astero, the Gamma, the Orthrus, etc. fly, how their stats are, I've done little videos looking at those. I have no guarantee that's how they will be when they launch. There is a big sort of chat that there'll be a lot of changes when these actually launch. They might have different stats, so, you know, to take those videos with a pinch of salt. But we also know that August and the Arena update is supposedly when we're going to be getting the Ion Strip Miners. I think it's the Ion Strip Miners, the faction level ones, and things like faction drones, so like Federation Navy Hobgoblins, that kind of thing. Those are supposedly being added as part of the Arena update. Now, I don't know if you'll buy those directly with loyalty points, or if you'll have to buy blueprints, or if you'll maybe be able to do both. Like, you know, you can buy the blueprint and then build it yourself, or send it to a friend to build, or you can, you know, buy them straight off the store as individual drones. I think having an option to do either would be an interesting way to do it. Means that you can, you know, get those drones straight away, or for a much higher price in LP, or you can sort of pass it through an industrialist. I think if I had to choose one, I'd prefer it to be blueprints, just because it then gives industrialists something to work towards. Same with things like the Ion Strip Miners. I can't imagine the Ion Strip Miners are going to be a blueprint. I could be wrong. I can't imagine they'll be a blueprint. I imagine those will just be modules that you buy and then sell or fit from there, which I think is pretty cool. Secret stores? I have no idea what this could be. That could be something to do with the Scholar. Scholar points, we were told that July should have an update to the Scholar store, including adding a load of the old Jung ships back in. That hasn't happened yet. Today is the 19th of July, I think, and we haven't had that yet. There's still a few days left of July, still, what, 11, 12 days of July left. So something could happen in the next, you know, in this week's patch or next week's update, you know, maintenance, that kind of thing. I don't know. It doesn't seem likely, though. But this could be when that's been pushed back to. That could be what the secret stores is there, you know, new stuff added to the Scholar points. It could be just what they're referring to the LP store as there, things you'll buy using Arena points. It's saying adding LP Arena, so adding the loyalty points Arena, and then secret store. So I think you'll earn the loyalty points in the Arena, and you'll then spend them in the secret store, which, you know, I'm super excited about. I'm looking forward to what's in there. So far, we've been told August should, again, this always comes with that should, things change, but it should be launching with the Mordu's Legion and Sisters of Eve ships, the faction drones, and the faction strip miners. There could be some other stuff in there as well, which would be pretty sweet. I just don't know anything about it. We could also be looking at things like the Synesis, the Proxys, and the Gnosis, which are the Society of Conscious Thought ships that I covered previously in my top secret video. those have actually appeared on the Chinese test server, so it could be possible that those might appear as part of the August update as well. They're kind of... I don't want to say beginner ships because they're not, but they're like trainers in that they don't have any skills attached to them. They are purely roll bonus ships, and they sort of have bonuses to scanning and to things like turrets and missiles. They're, very generic bonuses, in EVE Online at least. As I point out in that video, we couldn't actually see what those bonuses were in EVE Echoes. So who knows, they might be coming in August, they might not be. If they do, I'm excited to see what shape they come in. Then we have the third version of insurance slated for August as well. Now, again, I'm not going to get drawn into a conversation here regarding insurance. I sort of have to sigh and roll my eyes a little bit, when people say that insurance has utterly killed the game, because it's like, it hasn't. We're all still playing. I get that insurance isn't perfect. I don't think it is nearly as damaging as some people have made it out to be. It's kind of become almost a meme at this point that just at every opportunity, certain individuals will just lament insurance. So let's move on. Insurance version 3 is coming, which will include some changes to how this actually works. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to say now as well, I was talking on the content creator channel on the EVE Echoes Discord the other day, and there have been some discussions about how to improve auditing for all players. And that would also help, I think, possibly with insurance by changing how things work on the market, and how audits are calculated and how buy orders, etc. are generated. There's a lot of work that can be done on insurance. It's not a perfect system by any means. I don't think it's a terrible system, and certainly CCP themselves have said that the ISK system in EVE Online was abusable, it's horrific, and they wish they had never done it. It was part of a direct conversation with CCP to have insurance work the way it is, but there are tweaks going on to make it a better system, and I'm all for that. I'm all for improving it. And finally then, for August, corporation structures, basic features, and pirate detection array. Now, I covered this again briefly in a video where I talked about why you might want to build a corporation citadel, and there we have it. The pirate detection array looks like that is still coming along, and this could be in one particular incarnation, or there could be different versions of it, because in that video we looked at what NetEase had talked about this possibly being. It's one where essentially you can improve the spawn. There's one way you can improve the spawn rate of dead spaces, one way you can improve the spawn rate of scouts, one you can improve spawn rate of inquisitors, and then there's one that has a less version for all three. So if it's like 25% boost to dead space, 25 to scout, 25 to inquisitor, then there's one that's a 10% increase to all three types, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's how it's going to launch, but that's what they were hinting at before, and that's pretty cool. I think there's if there's anything that gives us more reason to have more stations in space, more capsular outposts and that kind of thing, I am all for it. I'm all for that idea of just building that empire and getting those stations up there. Yes, EVE Echoes' biggest war has now come to an end. Doesn't mean that stations aren't getting blown up. Someone lost one recently in Geminate. I'm not going to name names, just because people seem to always get angry when I start talking about different alliances in here, which is ridiculous. But hey, there we go. Someone lost one in Geminate the other day. Stations are still being blown up. Sovereignty is still something that people are competing over. I think just after that big war, we're kind of all licking our wounds, rebuilding, getting a nice big empire before we then start to conflict against each other again, which, I'm pretty excited for. War is a big part of EVE Echoes. It's what makes the game work. So, yeah, we're looking forward to the next big one. But then we also have corporation structures. It doesn't say corporation citadels, it says corporation structures, basic features. There was a talk a while ago as well about the Nullsec empires basically having access to gate guns. Modules that you'd have to build yourself, and you'd have to maintain them yourself, so you'd have to, actually fuel them, or possibly even put ammo in them, that kind of thing, that meant you would have gate guns on your gates. Now, I'm assuming that this isn't just, you can have it so it immediately fires at red, because that's kind of crappy. But I imagine that it's going to be one of those things that you can set them up so that they fire on criminals. which means if you have a big fight going on in your system, like someone comes into your system to try and blow your citadel up, you push them back, they can't run to the gates, because if they run to the gates, they gon' get blapped. It could be that, yes, they will shoot at any reds that try to come through, but they're lower efficiency than the ones that we have in low sec and high sec. It could be that you can destroy them from the other side, sort of thing. Ultimately, that happens in the Caldari Galente War back in the Empyrean Age. The Caldari shut down the entire Galente defense network and then just jump through the gates and fly off straight to Caldari Prime in the Luminaire system. So there's a precedent for this in the backstory, and I'd love to see that added. I'm curious to know. I really am looking forward to seeing what other corporation structures we get and what other bonuses we have for holding Alliance sovereignty. Finally then, we move to October. Notice that there is no longer the balance update in August. I don't know if that means the balance has been, like, sort of postponed indefinitely, or if it's just not mentioned there, if it's part of the, like, you know, completing the beginner experience or something else. I don't know, or maybe it's going to happen in September, and it's just not mentioned here. They haven't put an actual sort of date. They're not committed to it. I know from speaking with Melos recently that there is still a planned balance update coming. We've been talking a lot about things like destroyers and some of the fixes I think that could possibly go ahead, and I do listen to you guys. I do push that information towards the developers there as well. That balance update does appear to have disappeared here, so it looks like NetEase aren't willing to commit an actual date to it just yet, which, again, I'm actually all for. It means they're taking it seriously. It means they're looking at the feedback they're getting and figuring out how on earth they can actually apply this and make the game as good as possible. It also means that August used to have Dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts have now been pushed back to October. Capital Ship Modules and Skills, Capital Ships Dreadnoughts, and Capital Ship Jump Drive Sinusural Fields. Now, so Capital Ship Modules and Skills. We know we've already got some Capital Ship Modules required for building the freighters, and a lot of those are still going to obviously be used for building the Dreadnoughts as well. So, first of all, what are Dreadnoughts? Well, Dreadnoughts are a class of capital ship, so a ship larger than a battleship. In EVE Online, mainly, obviously looks like they are coming to EVE Echoes. Now, there's a couple of these that we know about so far. We've seen actually in the intro video to EVE Echoes, you see the Phoenix there, which is the Caldari Dreadnought, and then there's the Revelation, which is the Amar one, the Moros, which is the Galente one, and the Naglfar for the Minmatar, which looks kind of like a knitting needle just floating through space, or a fishing bobber is another way I've heard it referred to. So Dreadnoughts are basically their DPS machines, only surpassed as damage dealers by super carriers and Titans. Now, a lot of people I know are pretty excited about Dreadnoughts coming to the game. I'll be honest, I'm really not. I'm kind of happy they're getting pushed back because I don't see a reason for them. And I know that's going to upset some people, those folks who do want Dreadnoughts added to the game. I'm not saying never add them. Just right now, there's literally no point. Because the big thing about Dreadnoughts is their siege mode or siege module. And the siege module basically increases the damage whilst massively reducing the application and parks that ship in place. Essentially, the siege module, which is what makes Dreadnoughts, is also the activatable mode that makes strikers. So, what's the point in a Dreadnought if you already have a battleship striker which is doing the exact same thing? The point of Dreadnoughts mainly is for taking out enemy stations, but we also have a system in EVE Echoes where you can only do so much damage per shot, per tick, server tick. Basically, if you would do more damage than that citadel can take in one hit, then the game caps it at a certain amount. Now, the striker battleships already reach that amount, so tell me, what is the point in a Dreadnought that is going to do even more than that amount, but require ridiculous amount of materials to build, but not actually do anything that the current striker battleships aren't already doing? Literally, I just look at Dreadnoughts and I see that they are a slower, more expensive version of the striker battleships that aren't going to be doing any more damage. Because you can sit there and say, okay, what about, not necessarily about citadels, what about fleet engagements? Yeah, it's still kind of the same thing, because then if you put a Dreadnought into a fleet engagement, unless it's shooting at other Dreadnoughts, you don't activate its siege mode, at which point, again, you may as well have a battleship. Basically, Dreadnoughts became the striker battleships in Eve Echoes, so I don't see the point in adding Dreadnoughts anytime soon. I think we need to get all of this sort of, this sovereignty and corporation structures up to scratch first, and then having the Dreadnoughts in October, to me that makes sense, but I kind of think they might even just be worth pushing back further than that. I think it's worthwhile just forgetting about the capital ships for the time being and look at filling out the lower ranks. There are more frigates that we can add to the game. There are more destroyers that we can add to the game. Where's my Zweipel? There are cruisers we can add to the game, like the Tengu and the other Tech 3 cruisers. There are a whole slew of new ships that could be added to Eve Echoes at the existing tiers of ships as we have them. The frigates, the destroyers, the cruisers, the battle cruisers, and the battleships. I don't see the point in adding capital ships yet, because they don't have a role. And I would rather see the Republic Fleet Firetail, the Caldari Navy Hookbill, things like this added to the game first. The only thing of this that does kind of excite me is that we get sinusoidal fields. Now, sinusoidal fields are essentially, they're like a beacon that you can drop in a system, and then you activate a jump drive on a ship in another system, and it will jump to that, consuming an amount of fuel based on how many light years there are between those two systems. Not how many systems they are away, but how far geographically, according to the star chart, those systems are actually spaced. So the idea is that you have something like a covert ops frigate or a black ops battleship, that kind of thing, fly out to a system, drop a sinusoidal beacon, light it to create a sinusoidal field, at which point then any friendly jump ship, any friendly ship with a jump drive can jump to that point, instantly appearing in a system. And that's quite a scary thing. I love and hate sinusoidal fields in EVE Online. Doing a hot drop into someone's system is terrifying, but it's awesome fun at the same time. So it's kind of it kind of works both ways. It cuts both ways. My only thing is that this comes as part and parcel of things like Dreadnoughts and Capitals, and again, I just don't see a need for them right now. I think that they're going to be like freighters. They're added and people go, oh my goodness, these are really awesome. But let's be honest, when was the last time you actually saw a freighter drifting through New Eden? They are awesome, and people were super excited about them, but no one's using them because they're just too big. The game doesn't support it yet. They are ships that are outside the scope of the game currently, and thus to me it's kind of pointless spending development time on them. I would honestly much rather that we had new cruisers, new battleships, new frigates and destroyers added to the game instead, new game modes like the arena. There could be more stuff like that coming. I'd love to see the Jung, etc. arrive long before we get the Dreadnoughts. The only thing to say about this, though, is we have also seen our first proper Force Auxiliary for Eve Echoes as well in the Jung ship. I don't know its name off the top of my head. We had the Mochizuki, which appears to be a Dreadnought that can cloak, which is terrifying, but it looks like we're getting a Force Auxiliary version as well. There was some information released just before the NetEase Connect event back in June that showed some really cool looking Jung ships. So we've still got the Jung to add. We've still got Mordu's Legion and Sisters of Eve, if those aren't added as part of the arena update. There are loads of new backing ships that exist in EVE Online that don't exist in Echoes yet. Where's the Porpoise? Where's the Orca? Things like that. Mining command ships. We've been told that mining commands will be added at some point once this roadmap is complete. And to me, I think that we've got a much bigger need for the Porpoise and the Orca than we do for any of the Dreadnoughts. But hey, that could just be me. I'm beginning to ramble on about this right now. Bottom line is, I honestly think that Dreadnoughts just have no place in EVE Echoes currently, and there is much better things that the developers could be working on. But the only way we're going to have that is if everyone agrees with me, and if we let the developers know that. Now, if you don't agree with me, I'm not saying, oh, you need to change your mind and run off. You might have very valid reasons for wanting Dreadnoughts in the game, and that's fine. But if you do agree with me, let's let the devs know. Let's talk to them in the suggestions channel of the EVE Echoes official Discord. Head to that Google form, etc. for the Q&A. Ask questions. Let them know your opinions and all that there. Otherwise, that about wraps things up there. I hope I've covered everything in my head that I actually wanted to talk about in regards to this one. Thanks for listening. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. What are you most excited for? What do you want to see added? What cool things would you love to see in EVE Echoes? Oh, final one to add there. Yes, I would love to see more missions added to HiSec. Let's stop this argument of, low sec's too bad, I don't like low sec anymore. Wah, I'm getting scanned and destroyed. Boo-hoo. Cry me a freaking river. I am done with hearing all of that now. Yes, I agree that high sec should be better, but stop trying to nerf low sec in the process. Low sec is finally good. Stop trying to remove it. Make high sec better. Yes, 100% I think we need more mission variety in high sec, but stop trying to change low sec. Thanks for listening all the way to the end, folks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.